watch the practice with none of my friends. I turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice.
With your host, Keith Barney.
Out of practice.
And Mike Indeglio.
Way back in high school, most every night, my mom watched QVC, so I missed the practice. There was no TiVo, what could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then stream it on Hulu. Out of practice.
I'm feeling a lot better, thank you.
I could mercilessly mock you for 2 hours and then find out you had food poisoning. Again!
And welcome to the Out of Practice Podcast, a weekly podcast talking about episodes of The Practice, David E. Kelly's award-winning series, The Practice. This week we are up to Season 4, Episode 19, Till Death Do Us Part. How's it going, Dex?
Well, we are firing down the final stretch here of Season 4, which is crazy to me. And I feel that I want to give you an official apology. Last week I was... it's all in good fun. We like to go at each other, but little did I know, as I was making fun of you and your hair curtains and all of the rest, that you were battling some suspect broccoli. So you were really being a trooper while I was telling you that you were being an ass. So I apologize. We found out after the fact that you were a little bit under the weather. Maybe not so little.
We all did. Like half an hour after finishing last week's episode, I started the puke process, which continued puking every 25 minutes for the next 13 hours. It was really something. At some point, there's a big thunderstorm came through, and Jillian's like, "Oh, you want to go look at the storm?" I'm like, I cannot get up off the floor. There's absolutely no way. I was murdered. It was so sad and disgusting. And I'm glad that I was able to get through the podcast. But I didn't know what was wrong with me at that point. I was just like, I don't feel right. I feel tired. I can't focus. But, oh, no, I was about to, literally explode.
Yeah, that's bad.
PSA, if you find frozen broccoli in your freezer that you're not sure is, not sure how old it is, not sure how many times it's been thawed and refrozen, and you're like, fuck it, whatever, I'll eat it. Don't. That was a really bad idea. It was a very poor decision.
We've been making all kinds of bad dietary decisions, so I can't time, as we've discussed, who knows how long time is actually anymore, but we had been getting, very much like you, not a Fresh Direct, we use a different service called Every Plate. Same difference. Okay. They send you the recipes and everything. And it had been a more fiscally conservative choice for us than shopping and buying too much stuff. And we only need this many meals. And it was working out for a while we were cooking. Well, obviously, COVID, a lot of stress eating, a lot of pizza, a lot of different things. We haven't been using a lot of our meals. And so they sort of gather up in the fridge. And so it then begins those questions where you're like, well, how long can we keep ground beef, onions?
Yeah. The science experiment you're having.
Lots of guesses, a lot of things you shouldn't be guessing on, and so we've decided to maybe cut back and start trying to focus a little bit. But every time you're in a good enough headspace these past few months to make some decisions, it's only a matter of a couple of days before something else turns the corner. You know what I mean?
Truly, yeah. No, it is a tough time to do any number of things right now. But anyway, yes. Frozen broccoli, 99 cents. Just go get some more.
Yeah.
Not that big of a deal.
Yeah. You got to take the garbage right out, because broccoli is one of those things. There's a subset of food that when it's in the garbage can, it smells like farts, and broccoli is one of those things.
Yes. It is a super fart. Yeah, no question.
Brussels sprouts, broccoli, lots of stuff.
Right. There's any number of vegetables I will blame for the smell that just came out of me.
Fair.
All right. Well, we have a jam-packed episode today, so we have to get right into it. Starting with the loudest of all of our segments, entitled... Yeah, so last night, Jillian and I, we were watching an HBO movie called Bad Education with Hugh Jackman and, oh my God, where's my brain? Allison Janney. I adore Allison Janney.
Love Allison Janney. We are big fans right now.
And so, really fun movie. It's a true story about a superintendent in Long Island who was scamming his district and siphoning out millions of dollars, this, that, the other thing. But guess who shows up as Allison Janney's husband in the movie, but Ray Abruzzo.
Hey!
One of only 2 cops in all of Boston. He also is Allison Janney's husband, who may or may not be part of the plot to skim money from the Long Island School District.
Okay, sounds good. Was it enjoyable?
It was great. It was great. We did a lot of research, as we always do every time we see anything based on a true story.
Right.
We go down the rabbit hole researching all of the true pieces of it.
Right.
And in interesting fashion, the guy who the movie's about, who Hugh Jackman plays, didn't object to any of the telling of all the criminal plots he was up to, but wanted to make it very clear that he did not cheat on his husband, that they had an open relationship. So... whatever your name is, the guy who played, all right, you're off the hook. I don't think you cheated on your husband. So, on what we stick to. The criminal conspiracy, stealing millions of dollars from public school kids. Yeah, I did that. But fair enough. We all draw our line somewhere.
I love a Hugh Jackman joint.
He's very good. And he was very good in this.
I don't want to cheer him on because he's so good looking and talented and I want to envy him, but he's just so damn charismatic.
He is. No, he's a very likable dude and a good actor. So,
all right, and also I'm sure you've been watching just a ton of sports ball. Obviously, it's the NHL playoffs.
Oh yeah. Oh, if you thought you weren't going to get a lot of sports ball in the next couple of weeks, you are wrong.
I know, we've been so starved for it. I've been watching hockey, which I've not watched in so many years, and so I'm trying to not only Uber out on my Philly fandom, but also remember how hockey is played.
Oh, well, you can always talk to me. I was thinking about, I would really enjoy being a high school hockey coach. I feel like I could actually do that. Not in Canada, but somewhere where hockey is not popular.
Interesting. Okay. But also, baseball is still happening, although you questioned how long it would last, but it's still sort of going.
I'm surprised. I'm shocked.
Although, a lot of questions about legitimacy here. Obviously, I'm happy to have any sports being played at all. But when you shrink a season down so short, baseball's usually 163 games.
Right.
Now it's only 60 games. But at best case scenario, some of those teams, I'm looking at you, St. Louis, will only have played 40-some games. So is the seeding really relevant?
So what is the tiebreaker? Are they going on win percentage?
I have no idea. I mean, there's still hope that they're going to try to back-to-back a lot of these double headers to get all the 60 games played. But here's the thing. With this new rules for this season, when they play double headers, the games are only 7 innings each.
Oh, interesting.
And for all games, when they go into extra innings, they start with a runner on second.
Oh,
so it's just like random new rules that isn't...
especially for a sport where it's really all about the stats. Because there's no real athletic sport things happening there. It's basically just like a stat generator.
Yeah, and you're going to have a bunch of MVP-type players who are going to have incredible stats this year because in a shortened sprint, you're going to have guys batting 400 and stuff. So,
right.
But
it's a mess.
It's a mess. It's all a mess. Okay.
But hockey's real. They're doing really
great.
well.
I got to tell you, hockey's
I'm very
great.
excited about it.
I forgot how great hockey is.
Yeah. Well, and your Philly won last night. That was good.
We did 2-1. All right.
We are not going to continue. We're going to spare you the sports ball until the sports ball segment. So don't skip ahead because we have. Oh, wait, you have more TV.
I have a ton of stuff.
Oh, you just knock it out, buddy.
All right. So the first thing, we've been on a binge. So it's an HBO show called I'll Be Gone in the Dark. It's a docuseries. It's a 6-part docuseries. It's based loosely, I think, on the book by Michelle McNamara called I'll Be Gone in the Dark. And this docuseries is fascinating. It is, on one level, about the crime spree, the rapes and murders and break-ins of the East Area rapist.
He's probably racist, too.
Probably racist, too. Also known as the original Night Stalker, so they called him like Earons. One of the most notorious killers in the early 80s, late 70s, all through the San Antonio area. Sacramento. But eluded capture for 40 years, this guy. And so it's about that on one level, and the sort of hunt and the crime surrounding this person, this guy. But at the same time, it's also exploring Michelle McNamara's sort of obsession with the case. She was sort of a podcaster and a writer and a true crime.
And an amateur sleuth. She was not in any way official.
Correct. They use the term citizen detective quite a bit, which calls to mind other documentaries on Netflix, sort of Don't F with Cats, and sort of it's also at the same time about that, and also the explosion of the true crime genre that we're sort of all obsessed with, podcast form, docuseries form, you name it, you know. And what I like about this docuseries is in Don't F with Cats, it sort of focuses on the sort of Looney Tune type people who get obsessed in these sort of communities. This is much more focused on the people actually doing the grunt work, the detective work.
Real, actual, legitimate work.
Yes, and just the obsession it takes, but also the sort of dark alleys that brings you down mentally when you're just steeped in these. I mean, she was in that, I'm sure you can speak to this, Keith. She was in that push to finish her book, that last push to get the book finished, and trying to finish a book on a deadline whilst inside of 67 case file boxes of just the most gruesome murders you can see, while handling her own addiction. She was dealing with addiction issues. So it's also sort of about that. On top of that, it's about her relationship with Patton Oswalt and what it's like. Her husband, to be the partner of someone who is dealing with their creative pursuit, the depression that goes with that, the insanity that goes with that. And it's about all of these things, which could lead to it to be just kind of a mess. But somehow the balance is really well done. It never sensationalizes either the crimes or the sort of story of this, because the McNamara actually ends up dying of
right.
I believe they've sort of settled on it's a accidental overdose.
Yikes.
Anyway, it's about all of these things, and and I think it serves all of these through lines. And at the end, we were just emotionally devastated. But there is this crazy resolution that I think is not really a spoiler, but I'll save what it is. But there is resolution. There's a satisfying conclusion. Well, there's a conclusion. I don't know if it's satisfying. It's satisfying on some levels, and some it's just really sad. But and it's also about the victims. I mean, it really is wonderful. I really can't recommend it enough. The book was a huge hit, but I have to recommend the documentary because I just think it's wonderful.
Well, this episode brought to you by HBO.
Yes, HBO Max.
It's not TV, it's HBO.
Okay, so moving away from HBO, I also have been watching a documentary series called Connected. This one's on Netflix. And it's Connected, The Hidden Science of Everything. It's a docuseries where this journalist, I can't remember what he writes for, but his name is Latif Nasser. And he investigates, they loosely say how we're all interconnected. But really what it is, it's a science podcast. So it's been really great. I'll skip it. Just I think if you're sort of a nerd, I was talking about Smarter Every Day last week or 2 weeks ago. It's in a similar vein. He explores different. He was, in fact, the last one I was watching, he was talking with a archaeologist who studies poop, like the oldest human poop ever found, 50,000 years old. And
probably learn a fair amount from it.
Exactly, about what you can learn from different things. So it's a cool show. I've been digging it. In addition to that, Jen and I have been watching a docuseries called Unwell, which is about the wellness industry. And it sort of looks at the pros of a certain thing and then the cons. So we were looking at this one on essential oils and some of the amazing health benefits that essential oils have been shown to help with. But then it shows the other side, like the multi-level marketing scheme industry that's built up around essential oils right now, and then people who
it feels like a pyramid scheme.
Yes. So it shows both sides of these things. And there's one I was watching on the honey industry and bees and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, I think I saw that one. That was great.
Yeah, so that's been
fake honey out there.
That's been really cool. We've been watching those three things. And then in addition to that, in sports, me and Jen have been getting into, and I will save an entire segment for this at a time because I get really passionate about it. I should probably be on a separate podcast about it. It's a show called Big Brother. You either think it's the stupidest thing in the world or you're in. I think it is an amazing confluence of, imagine, if you will, the crazy sociopolitical dynamic that was high school. Just all the different personalities and the different, the evil that people can do to one another whilst lying to their faces. Mix that with crazy, stupid challenges a la The Floor is Lava or Wipeout or any of those stupid kind of shows you see. Fuse those together and then mix it with a survivor element where you're voting these people off. And also you have zero contact with the outside world. So you're basically in complete, you're being observed while in complete denial of any outside stimulus. So it is just putting human beings into a circumstance they should not be put into and then making them go at each other. So it's just fascinating to me on a lot of levels, but it's also gross. So it's hard to recommend it, but I'm addicted to it.
Well, you heard it here first. 2007 called and says, thanks for the plug for the old for Big Brother.
Yeah.
You know, I hear Survivor's good too.
Survivor is great. Yeah. So anyway, that's more TV.
I totally get it. Yeah, no, I will admit to my guilty pleasure trash show is Hell's Kitchen. I really enjoy the whole Gordon Ramsay genre, and he plays like 6 different versions of himself in each different show. But the trashiest one is good fun. I like watching the dum-dums scream at each other. Okay, it's now time to move on to filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Filings and subpoenas. Okay, we've got a couple of really interesting messages this week, starting with a voicemail from our old friend.
It's Phoenix Cage.
It is.
I'm calling in so
Welcome.
that Keith can't twist my words.
I object already.
Denied.
I have never twisted, but I'm just lazy.
Overruled.
I just don't.
Okay, guys.
Proceed.
I have to object. D.A. Marcia Scott for MVL.
This is for the episode Black Widows.
Really? Every other week we see our team take guilty people and get them a verdict of not guilty. She takes a clearly guilty person and in only 27 minutes has a jury come back with not guilty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your MVL?
Not mine.
Maybe now I'm the one arguing for decision based on the results. But
well, okay.
everyone...
Objection! I will object now to your own hypocrisy. But I was looking at it from the standpoint of, were I a juror, naturally I have a bias towards not guilty. And in this situation, I still had a bias towards not guilty, but she turned me based on what she was saying. So that is how I adjudicated most valuable lawyer.
Kind of lost. I definitely agree with you, Keith, that no matter how you slice it, Bobby made a bad call. Pleading down to second-degree murder is like folding a big pot instead of throwing in your last chip.
Yes.
As you said, he had little to gain and everything to lose.
Did
When
we
her whole
agree
life
on
is on the
something?
line, you throw in that last chip, no matter how certain defeat seemed.
Yes.
Although, to be honest, it doesn't even matter since none of this was believable. After the Black Widow doomed herself on the stand, it was over. No juror would let her get away with murder twice, only to have the chance to do it again.
Well, so in that case, you're not objecting to the MVL. You're objecting to the writing of that episode by having the jury behave unrealistically.
Okay, Now I have to address a casual comment that was made and seconded on the previous podcast. I am not, as you insinuated, Cloud Lover.
Okay.
Nor am I Tom Brady. I know I may be lacking some credibility given the production that has gone into some of my voice messages, but I can assure you, I have better things to do than to pretend to be 3 out of 4 of your regular correspondents. You do, in fact, have more listeners than just me and Leanne Wright.
You don't know that.
And just to prove that I'm not Tom Brady, well, that's something I never thought I'd have to say. Just to prove that I'm not Tom Brady, I'm going to put forth a motion
Okay.
to retire the award for being Tom Brady.
Oh.
It was funny. But the joke has ran its course, don't you think?
Whoa.
I'd personally like to see your time and
Shots
Photoshop
fired.
skills applied to other things. And I shouldn't even have to tell you that I'm not Cloud Lover. My God, the idea that I would actually finance that segment. I'm starting to suspect that you guys might be intentionally, or at least subconsciously, wasting your talents on trivial segments.
Oh, I've been wasting my talents for many years on many things.
We're doing this podcast. If you want to get into the bigger picture of wasting our talents,
well, actually, that brings me to if you're not Tom Brady, I'll agree to that. If you're not Cloud Lover, I'll agree to that. But that
we'll
last
stipulate
comment,
it. We'll put it on the record.
That last comment makes me think maybe you're my mom. Because that disappointment and belief in me wasting my talent and time sounds awfully familiar.
Wait, no, it all makes sense now. Because originally you thought it was your brother because of Phoenix, because he used that as his wrestling persona, right?
Right.
Okay, so now let's walk it through. So your mother is like, I need to get Mike to finally do something with his life. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to invent a character to tell him, to give him life advice on his podcast. Mm-hmm. Oh, what's a great pseudonym? Well, my son used something like that. So it's already connected to your family to begin with. And now, so she's out there, she goes to Radio Shack, gets one of those voice modulators.
Okay.
And has bought herself a microphone. So she's like literally setting up a Radio Shack in your childhood kitchen to send you this message.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest counter argument to this theory is that my mom can't even figure out how to work a crock pot. So the technology she would need in order to pull off this scam is pretty intense, unless it's all ruse.
Well, maybe she decided to stop wasting her talents with crock pot cookery and getting into technological tomfoolery. I
do want to say this. Well, actually, I could save it to the end, but I will say this. I have a friend who works for the NFL Network, and he's a Philly guy, and we went to high school together. We worked at camp together, and he just got assigned to Tampa Bay to cover Brady. So I might have to reach out to him and see if we can't get a free cameo. Although,
funny you say that, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
But that's a really good setup. All right, let us continue.
Because then it won't matter if they're bad. You won't be emotionally invested in them.
I'm not emotionally invested now.
The problem with that approach is, even if they're great, no one cares. And no, I won't count Cloud Lover because he or she is just a clever satirist. And Tom Brady has been quiet for so long. By now, he's probably moved on to an LA Law podcast where he's writing in as Peyton Manning.
Zing.
Now, I know that if I tell you to focus your efforts on something more meaningful, you might end up quitting the podcast.
Unlikely.
But I'm going to take that chance because I really do think you're ready to move on to something more creative and ambitious than your old segments. And I know you're ambitious because you've successfully taken this podcast to video. So let's keep it going. Let some of the old segments go. They're like training wheels, and you've outgrown them. Continuing to do them comes, at the very least, with a cost of opportunity. I mean, how many ideas have gone unexplored because you were busy photoshopping Tom Brady in a boy band?
Well, hold on. I will say, I'm going to agree and disagree. There have been ideas we have floated that have not been tossed away. They're just sitting idly by because things are very busy, and we trust me, Keith and I enjoy doing this podcast, and we have other projects we do want to work on. But you're right in that they have been waylaid. Is that a word? Because it sounds like it should be.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that the reason for said delay has nothing to do with Keith's photoshopping, because I feel that doesn't take as much effort as we think.
No. I have a million thoughts. But first off, the Tom Brady photoshops have about a 90-second clock. If I can't do it in 90 seconds, I don't do it. So it's not really eating into much of anything. But I think Phoenix has a really interesting point here, though. And I think it's clear he's a good therapist, or good psychologist, but because there is definitely a lot of layers of truth to that in my entire life and existence, tossing off projects so as not to have to take the emotional risk of planting a flag.
Oh, that's my whole career.
Yeah, no, and clearly I think that is definitely true. And this podcast is sort of an example of that. So the very thing you're defending is the very thing that proves your point. Actually. And so you're absolutely right. Shut up, phone. I think Phoenix is right about that sort of psychological inclination. I think where you're not seeing the full picture is that there are many, many, many other things that we are doing simultaneously. And this podcast, for me especially, is a way to blow off steam in a silly fashion while I'm working on something much more serious, with at other times. So this is sort of my release, as opposed to, this is the thing, that the release valve, so I can put my creativity into more serious things, as opposed to the other way around. So I think you're exactly right. It's just need to zoom out one more layer for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, if we could talk all day about this.
Because while I've done this in the last month, I've finished a musical, I've finished a screenplay, I've done blah, 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 blah. I'm working on the third novel. Like I'm doing a lot of other things, that this is just the fun part.
Yeah, I mean, I speak the exact same thing. I'm helping this startup get a new production company off the ground, working 2 full-time jobs. It's a lot. We're moving. But that's not to say we are not taking this seriously, I guess, is we determined long ago we were going to pick a really niche subject and sort of let it self-guide how much effort we would put into marketing and sponsorships and things like that. There are podcasters who really go for it. And I think probably to your point, we've sort of not pursued a lot of those things effectively or motivated properly to get some traction under the guise of, well, it's so niche. I don't know if we could even crack the egg anyway. So look, you've definitely shrunk us real good. No doubt. But all of that said, I think, Keith and I even had a little text conversation about a lot of things you say. Like every season when we turn over to the next season, we reevaluate what we've done, what's working, what we might want to do, and we will continue to do that. However, our humor is first to make each other laugh and or make fun of each other, followed by, will people like it? You know what I mean?
1,000%. This is we are not doing this for fame and fortune. We're doing it because it makes us giggle and makes us talk to each other on a regular basis.
In fact, I will say that I'm even using Phoenix's voicemail this week to excuse me for not having done any Time Machine weather this week, because I was actually working on doing a ridiculous thing for Keith's other podcast. So, so
right.
Many worlds are colliding.
Oh my, yeah, that's true. This is not even my only podcast. All right. Anyway. Now, for your last point about specifically the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady, and whether or not that that segment should be retired, because we have not heard from Tom in a long time, and perhaps the dead horse has been beaten into a liquid pulp of horse slurry. But I feel like
absolutely disgusting.
I'm a horror novelist. This is what I come up with. So I think that is the absolute point of it, is that we're trying to Letterman. It stopped being funny a long time ago, but if we keep doing it, by season 7, it's going to be funny again. But just to be sure, I gave a call to to a good friend, and here's a snippet of our conversation. The conversation I had with Tom Brady. So, Tom, every week for the last 2 seasons, we've given you an award at the end of every show.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And you're a loyal listener of the show?
Yeah, I'm so proud to be a part of this.
Well, you should be. It's a great honor. Now, we have taken some criticism about how much effort we put into this.
You know, it took a kind of a miraculous effort to do it, and just so happy that we were able to get it accomplished.
Yeah,
so,
me too.
What do you do with your OOPSY Awards?
Yeah, I put it in my bag, and then I came out, and it wasn't there anymore, so...
Oh, no.
It's unfortunate, because that's a nice piece of memorabilia, so if it shows up on eBay somewhere, someone let me know. Try to track that down.
So you think we should still continue to hand out the award at the end of every episode?
You know, it was just a great way to finish.
Well, obviously. Well, thanks for stopping by, Tom. Do you have anything else you want to say?
It's an honor to be here and have you present us with this trophy. You know, it certainly means a lot, and you know, my kids will be happy to see that trophy. They always ask, Daddy, what about the trophy? And, you know, I get to bring them one home, so it's pretty cool.
Well, I like your chances of continuing to be a winner here on the Out of Practice podcast and a loser on the field. Okay, so that was my conversation with Tom Brady, who appreciates his award every week. He's really excited about the trophy. He's really pissed he lost it.
Yeah, I mean, when you see that much commitment from Tom, it would be hard to take that away from him, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's not for us that we will continue to do this award forever, including on the next podcast that we do, just because we're dicks. But it's important to Tom.
That's true. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. So, if Phoenix, if your goal was to reverse psychologize us into doing more Tom Brady, maybe that proves the initial point to begin with, that you are Tom Brady, and just trying to reverse psychology us into giving you more awards.
You heard it here first.
Just thoughts here for the podcast. Okay, it is time to move forward.
Oh, you know what? I actually know there's one more thing I wanted to point out.
Okay.
I got an email, a personal email this week from one of our founding sponsors, Jennifer Masanova, and I won't go into the details or read it or anything. I don't think it was for public consumption. I don't think she would mind, but you know, as Keith and I have both mentioned, we're in the process of moving or looking to move or to relocate or whatnot. And we've also mentioned that with Broadway and the theater business kind of on, let's be positive and say hiatus. You know, my wife has been looking for work and all kinds of stuff. And Jennifer has some connections and works in HR and has reached out and really graciously offered to, you know, play matchmaker and kind of help us in that job search or in getting our resume up and running, and just, you know, has really just offered to be a help. And I got to tell you, I don't know the feeling. I feel bad I haven't been able to get back to her just yet. We've been really busy, but it's really neat, Keith. You know, when we started this, we were hopeful that we'd have listeners, and Phoenix even mentioned it. Despite our best efforts at times, we have people listening to the show. Not only do we appreciate that for you guys, you know, going on this weird journey of watching all these episodes again, back to back to back, but also for sort of becoming a part of a community and being so willing to help and to have conversations and to just interact in any way, shape, or form, be it on social media or a personal email or just a, hey guys, you know, thanks, or it's really been awesome. And then even Marla Sokolov today, we talk about her all the time, reposted one of our Instagram posts, and I guess what I'm getting at is just a brief moment of humility and just saying we're really thankful. Thank you for writing in. Thank you for thinking of us even personally outside of the show and being so helpful or willing to help. It really means a lot, just for my hope in humanity and the perseverance of friendship and and just a thank you. I thought I'd throw it in here too.
No, I feel exactly the same way to Jennifer, to Phoenix, to everybody. Like it is really fun and gratifying to be building our tiny little community of like-minded folks up here on the interwebs.
Look, even in those times where we have to record 3 back-to-back episodes just to cover our asses because I'm going on a cruise or Keith has got to go look at a house or something's happening, you can ask CEO Jen. I'm never saying, "Oh, I gotta go do the podcast. I gotta." It's never that. I always feel like it's one of the few fun things, that and wasting time playing video games when I can. These are my 2 hobbies currently. So there you go.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, it is time to actually get into the hobby part of this. 42 minutes into the episode, it is time to hop back into the time machine to talk about The Practice, Season 4, Episode 18, Till Death Do Us
No, it's
Part.
not. It's not about that at all.
Well,
don't we have to go to
yeah, we're gonna
this
do
thing in
it.
the basement? Oh, your segue is thrown me.
I'm teeing it up.
Professional.
Because the episode, Season 4, Episode 18, Till Death Do Us Part, aired
Gotcha.
on April 30th, 2000, which brings up our eternal question, what were we doing
This day in the basement.
April 30th, the year 2000? What were you doing, Dex?
I was still at home. April 30th we are at?
April 30th.
All right, so we're 2 weeks away. I have to remind myself in 2 weeks. It's my dad's last birthday. That's weird and dark.
Oof.
But we're moving into a really challenging time in my life where I was, questioning what I'm doing with my life and also dealing with, I have the unfortunate experience of the last year of my dad's life was really kind of challenging in that, well, losing a parent is never not challenging, and any way it goes down is going to be terrible. But my dad got really sick, and then we were going in and out of nursing homes and at-home care, and him getting better and getting worse, and just kind of slowly going downhill. And that all starts basically on his birthday this year, so in a few weeks. But before we kind of get into that stuff, which is going to get heavy, I wanted to talk about a really interesting thing in my life I've mentioned before, which is I had rowed in high school and I had rowed for a small bit of time in college. And somehow, I wish I could remember how it really originated, but as I'm at home now and struggling to kind of figure out what I'm doing, my dad was getting sick. And so my brother, sister, and I had to kind of help pay some bills. And I got a job working for my old high school, coaching the novice or the freshman boys and girls crew team.
Interesting.
My coach, I wasn't like a great rower in high school, but somehow he had heard that I was back in the neighborhood and asked me to come on. And it was one of the best experiences I ever had. These kids taught me so much, and it taught me about being a leader. And it just so happens that exactly from this time period, we have a photograph I'm going to share.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Oh, look at all those little rowers.
Yeah, so I am I'm way on,
you.
I guess, the left of the screen. So that's me. I clearly look like I'm depressed and stress eating. But
no, you look jacked.
Okay, yeah. You know what? I'll take jacked.
Yeah, no. That'd be a good guy to arm wrestle.
Yeah. So look, this was I did it this season and then the following season, once my dad was passed away, and that was a whole different box of tools I learned from this experience after he passes. But here, it was sort of the first time I ever held any sort of leadership position, and it was during a time when I was feeling a lot of guilt and worthlessness in my personal life because of how I thought my parents were viewing me. And so this was a really it was like a fulcrum. I could have gone a really dark route. I'm prone to clinical depression anyway, but these kids taught me a hell of a lot about myself and about what I could accomplish, and that I could be a leader, and that you didn't have to be great at something in order to be a good coach, and that leadership can affect kids. And so I'm really thankful to Brian Perkins, who was behind me in that picture there. He's gone on to coach the Temple rowing program and also, I believe, one of the junior national teams. So I don't know how it came to be that he knew I was home and he offered me this opportunity, but I'll be forever grateful for it. So that's my This Day in the Basement. Go UM crew.
No, that's really interesting. And I certainly find, and I think it's sort of like an accepted truth, that frequently when you need the most help, what is most helpful is to help someone else. And that, like, it is certainly a great way to battle against all of those, feelings of worthlessness or depression, whatever, just helping people. And because certainly I suffer from all of the same things and always have. And when I have an opportunity to be of use, to be of service, it's really hard to feel useful and depressed at the same time.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think that's really interesting. That's a great story.
I've actually, specific to that, and I'll save this for another podcast, really crazy story happened that first year where, I'll just give you a teaser. We were getting in the boat and rowing, and the girls hit some dead wood, like a log, and I went in my little motorboat to clear the log. Turned out not to be a log. Turned out to be a stiff corpse. And
no way.
Yeah, and there was a whole story. The cops came. There's a whole cool story that
holy shit.
If we were to ever have a podcast revolving around stories that we shouldn't tell, that'll be on there.
Yeah, we have a theme song, just no episodes. Yeah, yeah, boy, that is the most Philly thing I've ever heard. Were you in the Schuylkill?
We were in the Schuylkill. Yeah, sure were. And the cop was like, "Did you touch it?" I was like, "Yeah, I touched it. What do you? It was there. I had to get it out of the way."
Oh,
yeah.
Wow, that's grim. Wow, I can't wait to hear that story.
It's a cool story. Yeah.
That.
All right, what about you? What was happening up in Rochester, New York, in that spring of 2000?
Nothing quite so as exciting as finding a body, but April 30th is my mother's birthday.
Happy birthday, Mom.
So what I was doing was calling her to wish her happy birthday using what we olds used to refer to as a calling card, a phone card, because that was how you had to do long distance. Now, if you're not an old, long distance, it used to matter how far away the person was that you were calling on your phone, and could be very expensive if you were calling long distance, which it was from Rochester to New York. But I definitely, especially my freshman year, but my freshman, sophomore year, I clung to that calling card. I called home a lot because I didn't have a lot else going on. So that was sort of my lifeline, was that old little red calling card I used to go and use in the dorm.
You know how you get like iTunes gift cards or Amazon gift card for presents now? It used to be back in the day, as a good gift was like a 200-minute calling card, because you could use that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like a big deal. Call anywhere. And this, this was, my parents were paying for it. It was great. I mean, to be fair, I only called them because I had literally no one else in the world that I could call at that point. So it was a good investment for them.
I'm trying to remember. Did we have dorm phones in our dorm rooms, or did we have to go to like a pay phone or something? No.
There was a phone in all of our dorm rooms. But it was just local. It wasn't hooked up to long distance. It wasn't included with it. But yeah, that was my sad phone that never rang because I was too afraid to have friends. Yay!
So much has changed, or has it?
Look, okay, well, it is now time to talk about...
It's time for the Out of Practice Podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago. Now back to Keith and Mike.
Okay, so we are talking about April. Still, it is still going. Santana is still crushing it with Maria. And this is a guy, like a street musician, just shredding on this. thought I would enjoy it. So, the cover of the Burlington Free Press talked about honeybee colonies in peril.
That's interesting. Weren't we just talking about that in More TV?
Yes, we were. Yes, well, we clearly solved that. But interesting that we were talking about that 20 years ago. Still a thing. The top movie was U-571 in its second week of domination. Took in $12 million. It was a submarine disaster movie starring Matthew McConaughey, Bill Paxton, Harvey Keitel, and John Bon Jovi.
So many movies we talk about during this segment that I just don't remember. It must be a facet of, I guess I wasn't going to the movies a lot. Doing a lot of blockbuster renting.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I never went to the movies because we didn't have a car in Rochester, and there was no walkable movie theater except for a small indie theater. But I went there and I saw like Boys Don't Cry, and it murdered me. I will never see it again. It absolutely
maybe
killed
not
me.
the best turn of phrase there, but same difference.
Yeah, well, I definitely cried. Listen to this guy shred. It's like sitting in a mall. Okay, thank you, Damian Salazar. I'll actually credit you if you shred on that. And that means it's time.
It's time for SportsBall.
The NHL playoffs have begun, and the Flyers are in the semifinals against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Today, the Flyers fell behind 2-0 in the series after dropping its second straight game at home 4-1. The third period featured 128 penalty minutes with 7 majors for fighting and 6 misconducts. Future head coach Rick Tocchet picked up 29 penalty minutes in one sequence. Keith lost his ever-loving mind, even though the Flyers lost. And here's a little clip of it all going crazy.
Dellamore's on the one side. There's also a
so this is a 5-on-5 brawl.
Is that Bugner? Yeah, I think that's Bobby Bugner.
The goalies get involved. Oh, this is back when it was Boucher. So this is yeah, it's back when hockey was hockey. Oh, I miss it. I miss it.
Almost 40, and I still don't understand the offsides rule, but we're getting there.
I'll explain it to you off air when I am the Out of Practice Podcast official hockey coach.
Now, I want to point out that in deference to the immense amount of thought that we're giving to Phoenix's constructive criticisms,
yes,
I will be taking this week off of Time Machine Weather to just decide how it can be better implemented to service our listeners.
Yes. How can we better service our listeners by giving them a weather report from 20 years ago?
Listen, it happened.
No.
Weather.
Well, I mean,
whether you like it or not.
Ooh. Where is it? I have it somewhere.
Comedian?
There
damn
it
right.
is.
You're damn right.
Okay. So we're not doing the weather segment.
Not this week. No.
Okay, then.
I can't say what the future will hold.
And I'm not going to take this anymore.
It's time to talk about the damn episode.
This episode is season 4, episode 18, Till Death Do Us Part.
19.
Episode 19. Oh yeah, I keep saying that wrong because I didn't update it on my sheet. I should show you the rundown sometime. It's very complicated. This was written by David E. Kelly, Alphonse H. Moreno, and a new writing team who worked together, Nora K. Foster and Adam Armas, who wrote together on Xena, Hercules, Birds of Prey, Heroes, and American Odyssey. It was directed by first time for the practice director, Dwayne Clark, who directed on Hawaii Five-0, the CSI series, all of them, the Highlander TV show, and this is the first of 7 episodes he will do with the practice. This leaves us with only one eternal question.
I liked that Highlander TV show.
What is that supposed to be?
Did you? I love the movie.
The movies. That's
Is this what happens to women when you insert your penis?
Xena Warrior Princess.
What?
Yeah.
What does Mike think's gonna happen?
You know, what if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
Keith, I'm nothing if not honest.
Yes.
And so I need to insert something that I've never had to do before. And it goes a little bit something like this. Spoiler warning!
What the hell was that? What are you spoiling?
Nothing. I have to say that as I was getting the rundown up, or my IMDb up today, I actually saw the first sentence of the synopsis.
Oh,
now,
no.
The previously on this week is reminding us what happened with Ellenor's case when she was denied to take the new DNA test. And so obviously we're going to revisit her continued pursuit of that capital murder charge.
Right.
But then I saw something about Rebecca's case this week.
Yeah.
And my suspicion is that that's what the show's about. It's Rebecca's case and Ellenor's case. And so I don't want to make a prediction that I know what I think. I just, it happened. I saw it and I just don't want to pretend like I didn't see it.
So this week's new segment, Mike bails on his segments. All right. You know what that means. It is time for everyone to switch over to your favorite podcasting service. Oh, wait. You know what? Before I do this, I have an objection.
To us or to me?
No, to our listeners.
You're going to object to our listeners?
I have a bone to pick.
Oh, boy.
With our fair listeners, and that
we don't have enough of them to alienate any.
I know. But I'm just saying, I have not had a chance to play this bumper.
Mr. Foreman, the jury has reached its verdict.
Madam Foreperson, has the jury reached a verdict?
No one's in the jury!
What say you?
I'm just saying, folks, we have not had a chance to welcome a new member to the jury in a long time. And what to join the jury, you must leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts or a different service. Just let us know where it is so we know to look for it. It's actually very important for us if we want to have more than our 4 listeners. And that would be really nice if you would join the jury. We'll shout you out. We'll read your name. We'll read whatever, fun things you write. Do us a favor. Leave us a rating and review. And if you already have, you're hanging out in the sweet-ass jury box you're getting to order off the menu for lunch. They bring it in. It's takeout. It's, you do have a $15 minimum on your lunch, but, you can get a fair amount for $15 for lunch.
Well, speaking of that, Keith, and unrelated entirely, but somewhat related, for those of you, back to HBO, for those of you who aren't watching
We're never going to do this episode.
Last week tonight on John Oliver, for those of you not watching, you need to watch last week at least. Did a whole breakdown on how fucked up jury selection in this country is and how to this day it's rife with racism and classism and how they do everything they can do to disenfranchise black jury members.
Voir dire is basically, let's find the most racist people we can get.
Yeah, and they actually have clips of law professors teaching students how to be racist but get away with it. Back in the 90s, which is where we are right now. So adding to the More TV segment, watch John Oliver last week tonight, this past Sundays.
So what you're saying is that if they don't leave us a rating and review, is they're racist? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that, but it's being softly implicated.
You're not saying it, is what you're saying.
You're right. What I'm also not doing is running any ads for Anchor because Anchor don't want us. We don't want them. Click on the QR code. We'll see you after the episode for the oopsies.
Okay, well, we have something very important. This is going to be the longest episode of all time because we have something very important to adjudicate because we have gotten an objection from our CEO, Jen.
Yes, I have to correct myself. I chose the first site that I clicked on, as Mike did say, and as I did a little more research, I realized that the windmill theory was a lesser known theories. The main one that I read about was a more nautical theme. This is on grammarist.com. 3 sheets to the wind is a phrase that means extremely inebriated, very drunk. We know this. 3 sheets to the wind is a nautical term. Interestingly, in sailing parlance, sheet is a rope, line, or sometimes a chain that attaches to the corner of a sail, not the sail itself. If a sailor does not keep the sheets tight, then the sails flap and wobble, allowing the ship to stagger off course like a drunk. Sailors devised a scale of drunkenness. 1 sheet to the wind described a slightly tipsy sailor. 4 sheets to the wind referred to a sailor who had passed out from drinking alcohol. So 3 sheets to the wind, first seen in print as 3 sheets in the wind in the early 19th century. So it was assumed that the sailor scale of drunkenness existed long before then. That was very long. Thank you to grammarist.com. That was one of the better exampple.
All right. Well, wave and say thank you.
Wow, thanks, Jen. That was fascinating. And yeah, I could definitely see that. Being a New England sort of a WASP person, I have sailed, and if you do not attach the bottom line, it will flop around like crazy. So what is that?
I'm petting Johnny.
Are you petting Johnny Carson?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, fascinating. Thank you very much. Frankly, I think they're both interesting. So they both had value. One was more known, one was lesser known, but I'm on board. Now, it is time for the greatest moment in the show every week, entitled...
Like it's 30 seconds to remember what just happened on the show.
Ellenor continues her pursuit to get her guy retested for DNA to get him out of prison, but is denied. In an awesome case on the other end, a married couple has their marriage questioned because of the one lady has Alzheimer's, and it turns out that they did love each other, but her husband got killed, and she got immunity, and it was awesome. We all cried. It was real good.
Wow, that was clear.
Yeah, clear, concise. I really thought that I really nailed it.
Really, really nailed it. All right, well, it is now time to nail everyone's favorite award show.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Out of Practice podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present
it's going great.
The Oopsies! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady.
There you go.
Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike.
What the hell are the Oopsies?
Well, the Oopsies are a fake award show that we do at the end of every episode. There we are. We'll fix it in post.
No, I don't think we can. All right. It is what it is. Par for the course.
All right. Well, we are going to hand out the awards, whether or not we are worthy of awards ourselves, beginning with... Most Valuable!
Well...
Who you got, sir? Well,
nobody really won this case. I mean, who's the most valuable lawyer?
Well, are we going to go based on results or work? So are we going to give it to the person who did the best work, like Phoenix told us to do before, or the person who won, like Phoenix told us to today?
Well, I think, Eugene and Jimmy were out there doing the grunt work and, revisiting suspects who were probably, talking to the victim's father is a tough haul. And Jimmy did that. We talked about it on air. Jimmy did that with such a nice subtlety. And even Lucy in there helping organize all of the admin and clerical duties and help Eugene out and Jimmy out. Ellenor is heading the team and and she presented an amazing case, but thus far has been denied yet again. And you know what? I hesitate to give anybody over in the other case any credit because they were all trying to loo-jack each other and didn't even want it. So that taints the whole thing. I'm at a loss here, Keith. I need a life preserver.
Okay, well, first off, I thought Ellenor did a tremendous job, and that the reason for her lack of success was not her lack of persuasiveness, but the unjust structure of the appeals court, of the federal appeals court. So I think there's a really good argument that Ellenor should win based on the work that she did, the fact that she got that close, the fact that she was able to get the appeals court to rule that his constitutional rights had been infringed. I think that's a victory moving forward. Additionally, I think Rebecca helped navigate the most positive outcome while having the case like fly out in every direction underneath her, and was still able to advocate well for her clients, even as their needs and their needs changed and as the case changed around her. So I actually think we have two really good options for most valuable lawyer, as opposed to not having any.
So that's not a winner, though.
Oh, well, all right. I'm going to give it to Ellenor. I think she has taken this $500 just, impossible case and turned it into something real and made incredible progress towards justice, and especially in these capital cases. I mean, ask like Adnan Syed or Brendan Dassey. Like, these things, it's a journey, a long-term journey to get these things overturned eventually. So, yeah, I'm giving it to Ellenor.
In the fiction of the show, though, we don't know that it continues, right? It does feel like, well, they did say to be continued. You're right.
We know it continues.
They did harp on the point that he still had 14 days. It wasn't like, and she did say she wasn't asking for a stay. So in that context, we still think that the case continues, in which case I think that, yes. Then because of the to be continued, I will say I agree. And Ellenor, I'm good with that, oopsie.
Okay, congratulations, Ellenor, on your fake award. Coming up next.
Already famous cause you've been on TV, getting a paycheck, or the first entry on your IMDb. Way to go, but you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
Listen, everybody stand up, put your hands over your heart, and swear in my goddess of the episode. You're right.
You're looking for Bea Richards, the Oscar-nominated Bea Richards.
Wow. Regardless, who's the winner, Keith? Who am I trying to talk about and loud praise upon?
You are
Bea
talking
Richards.
about Bea. I believe it's Bea.
Oh.
Could be B.
Now,
better podcast.
A better podcast would edit that out. That Bea Richards, I apologize.
That's up to you.
I apologize for everything I've done in the past 30 seconds. But that is not to say that I didn't think you absolutely slayed every second you were on screen this episode. I would give you every... That may be... Now, we have seen Larroquette. We have seen Winkler. I would say
James
Whitmore. I would say that stands toe-to-toe with any of the guest spots we've had as best performance as a guest actor on The Practice.
Yeah, no question. No question.
So, all that said, Bea B. Richards.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just as an extraordinary performance, no question. And what a final performance. It was the last thing she ever did. And my God, what a way to go out. Just extraordinary, extraordinary work. So, congratulations, Bea Richards, on your Best Guest Actor. Oopsie. Other than the Oscar and all of those other things, clearly your most prestigious award.
Now, that said, Juanita Jennings was also very excellent.
Oh, yeah. No, she was.
Not taking anything away. And I'm sorry to have mixed your headshots up. Mind you, they're very small.
They're very small. And I thought Leon Rossum was amazing as well. Mm-hmm. Like, just great performances all
and the
around.
Scene with the father, what was his name? I've quit trying to...
That was Leon Rossum.
Okay, great. So... Let's just move on. I think we should just move forward.
Did you eat any broccoli this morning?
Oh, God.
All right. Next up.
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show.
Michael Bottalucco had a great scene this week. Steve Harris had a couple great scenes, but I think once again it's Cameron's episode.
Yeah.
Those, especially her first kind of unedited one take in front of the federal court in Pennsylvania, I thought was really, really well done. And then when they had questions for her and were questioning her as that trio of judges, I thought she responded and her performance was really excellent there. So I'm going to piggyback on last week and give a continuing Best Actor to Cameron Manheim.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I thought she really commanded the stage there, and it is sort of a stage. We had a great beat from her at the end. Like I thought she just did really, really well. I also thought Lisa Gay was great in her
Excellent.
part, and being able to sort of watch her clock what was happening. She just gave great reaction shots. But yes, congratulations to Cameron Manheim for your fake award. Coming up next, everyone's favorite, the eternal, the profoundly important, the what will be here forever and ever and ever.
The Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
Thanks for listening, Tom. We do appreciate it. We appreciate you for calling in, too.
He's very excited about his trophy.
I wanted to be on the record that I am actually going to ask my friend James if he'll, in a press conference, ask Tom Brady if he's ever heard of the OOPSY Awards. I suspect he's going to give me the hardest of no's, but I'm going to ask him.
We talked about it with him.
James is going to be like, what are you even talking about? Not important, James. Just ask the question.
Just ask the question.
James Palmer, NFL.com. Anyway, I think it's pretty obvious here. Jailhouse snitch Tom Brady is going to be this week's winner. I'll put up last week's Tom Brady right here. Jailhouse snitch Tom Brady, you are this week's award winner for the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that sounds good. I really did like my creepy mannequin Tom Brady. That was terrifying.
Yeah.
So congratulations to Jailhouse snitch Tom Brady for the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady. Leaves us with only one thing to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
If you haven't been able to tell by now, really liked it. It reminded me of, I don't know, listeners might not know, I have a weird obsession with the Golden Girls.
That makes sense.
I love the Golden Girls. And one of my favorite Golden Girls episodes is season 3, episode 1, I believe it's called Old Friends. And Sophia, the hilarious Estelle Getty, befriends this old man on the beach. They're both kind of retirees, and they strike up this friendship, and then he ends up having Alzheimer's. In fact, I've got this queued up. Just one moment.
Something about Alvin that wasn't right?
Ma, he has Alzheimer's disease.
You know, Dorothy, people think if you live to be my age, you should be grateful just to be alive. Well, that's not how it works. You need a reason to get up in the morning, and sometimes even after you find one, life can turn right around and spit in your face. Think he'll remember me? I'll remember him.
Mm-hmm.
Love that episode. Makes me cry every time. And this one did the same. I am happy to report, sad to report, I don't know, something to report, that I wept like a little baby. Well, I almost wept. I came very close to weeping. It was a great episode. I really enjoyed it. I'm really fascinated to see where we go with next week and the
John Hawkes case.
The John Hawkes case. I feel like we have to get justice there. I feel like we have to. But of course, we both know that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But nonetheless, anticipation is a great barometer for how much you liked an episode. I thought the writing was so good, with the exception of those 2 beats we've mentioned, and the acting was so good in the Alzheimer's case. One of my favorite episodes, and especially sandwiched in the middle of a trilogy, it's hard to be the best. Nonetheless, I'm going to give it a solid 8.75 spare tires.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I don't disagree at all. I thought it was a really, really excellent episode, with tremendous performances up and down everywhere you go. I thought both the performances and the storyline was really fascinating. With the Alzheimer's case, there was lots of twists and turns that were unexpected, and yet tracked still.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought it was just handled really beautifully. You know, I ding it for the sort of like jokes with the malpropisms, but I may be wrong. Like that may be part of it. I'm just not. I'm not a doctor, so I don't really know. I also really liked the progression of the John Hawkes case. I liked having the victim's father being reasonable and yet still dug in and emotional. I thought the jailhouse snitch thing is sort of a, you know, it's been done a lot. I liked the twist of Ellenor being caught and still then defending herself well. So there was a lot of, especially in that case, people making good points on both sides and being dug in. And I really liked the writing of that. I really liked the writing of, as I said during the episode, about how the dynamic changes when you're talking just to judges and there's not a jury involved. So all of that I really liked. I had one question about the Alzheimer's case, and about going through all of these machinations to protect her and get married and this, that, the other thing. This whole thing is dependent on the idea that somehow she wouldn't have had a pretty solid self-defense case in this case. If her husband was actively beating her and she killed him defending herself, I'm not sure any of this would have been necessary. I feel like she probably would have been cleared. Now they don't know that, and they can't be sure of that. But I would imagine she'd have a pretty good case there. So that was just one thing that sort of like I thought about. I would have liked to have had addressed at some point.
I actually I credit the writing a little bit there, because totally agree with your point. However, they did enough, at least. Look, there's only so much you can do, right? Limited time frame. But in that scene where she quote unquote confesses, she does make the point to point out that she gave him 2 warnings. She's like, come closer, come closer. So it wasn't so much in the heat of defense, she bashed him and killed him. It was, there was some not want to say premeditation, but some acknowledgement.
Although she also did specifically say, I did not intend to kill him.
Yeah, I guess my point is that there's enough of a quote unquote case there that, you know, it does stand to reason that her new husband / that guy thought to be a little more, let's just say it was me, and, you know, confuse her into thinking it was him. But
and to be fair to the show, it only bumped me the second time I saw it.
Yeah, right.
So all that said, I really, really like this episode. So I'm giving it a full 9 spare tires.
There you go. Whatever that is. Math.
So math is the amount of spare tires. Okay. Wow. This was a very long episode.
If they wanted to actually see the actual dividends of all that math, what where would they go? How would they go about it?
Well, I'll tell you. They can go to our blog at outofpracticepodcast.blogspot.com and see a whole long list of all of our shows in order of good to bad. They can reach out and tell us about it at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. Send us job offers. Hey, just reach out, say hi. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram and see all of the photoshopping I'm wasting my time doing at Out of Practice. Tell us how they can give us money.
As always, you can donate to the show in one of two ways, a one-time donation or a monthly contribution. You can find the appropriate links to do so in our show notes. We no longer have any sponsorships, so we truly do thank all of our current and future sponsors for helping us keep the show going. And, everyone who engages with us on social media, it actually, like we said, is really important and helpful to us. Even, especially in this time of uncertainty and stress. You can also support the show, as Keith mentioned, by leaving us a review. Fake it for all we care. But also by recommending the show to a friend who might enjoy our nonsense or checking out The Practice as a show. Now, Keith, this week's favor. Should I ever get dementia or Alzheimer's? Remind me many times that we did this awesome show together. And if I start to say anything incriminating, just fire off some very loud laser sounds.
Laser sounds!
Bye.
Bye.